one. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Campus Cuts. I'm your host, Tanaka Tava, and Campus Cuts is an intergenerational, multicultural show that brings together entrepreneurs, athletes, models, students, and people from all walks of life to be able to chop it up in the virtual barbershop. And today I have a special guest. I got a man who is a disciple, a man that is out here trying to change and shift the culture through his example of leadership, entrepreneurship, and a man that is somebody that wants to continue to his community the best way possible. And one of my best friends out here, shout out to Mr. Raymond Mumbo Williams. Welcome to the show.
What it do? Shout out West Dallas. Shout out to Tanaka. Love Campus Cuts. I am here, bro. I am here.
Man, dude, long time coming. You're finally here.
Long time, bro. Long time. Ain't nobody complaining. You've been building like crazy. I let us see it. Who don't?
Right. Yes, sir. So basically, of course, you have seen Campus Cuts evolve to from the beginning. You've listened, you've heard about it, we've talked hours about it. So it's nothing new. But for the audience that is in, Campus Cuts started as a show on Baylor University's campus to talk about equity, diversity, and culture and inclusion, and it turned out to a phenomenon to itself. Mumbo has been a great friend, supporter, somebody that's always brought great constructive criticism, support when coming to the show. And so now what I want is for him to be able just to highlight who he is and what he's done and who he's built. So, of course, Mumbo, I want you to introduce yourself. Who are you? What is your name, your occupation, and where you're from? Then we'll move on from there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, full name, Raymond Michael Mumbo Williams, the third. And I am I go by Mumbo, so accordingly Mumbo Williams is just fine. As you know me as. I born and raised up in New Orleans, Louisiana, East Side, Ninth Ward. Hurricane Katrina, moved over to Dallas, jumped from Houston to Irving to Dallas to Irving to Dallas, and finally landed up in West Dallas. Now currently living in Fort Worth. And currently, my main like the things that keeps me going every month financially is flipping houses, basically. Flipping houses in the subgenre of wholesaling, primarily.
Okay. So that's his thing, but of course, this guy does a lot. So
yeah,
he does too much, but man, we'll that later. But thank you for being a part of the show. What we wanted to do on this show is to truly give an opportunity for people to share, their story, to present what they are, what they built, and why it was important for them to continue to do what they want to do, man. So before we go dive into all that stuff, man, everybody asks the question, oh yeah, what do you do? But the question that I really want you to answer is, who are you? Who's Mumbo Williams?
Oh, let's dig deep in. Yeah, man. So to kind of keep to keep it both specific and general, man. I first and primarily identify as a believer in Yahweh, Jesus, Yeshua, the Messiah of the scriptures, of the biblical scriptures, and that has shaped the majority of my life and what that looks like for the most part. So everything that I do, I would say deep down to the marrow of my bone, I am seeking nothing but first the kingdom of God, and to be a glimpse and a light and the salt of the earth, as He has done, as Yahweh has been for me through the Messiah. And so, Wasn't always that way though. So up in New Orleans, Louisiana, my primary identification or identity was built around my hatred for people. That was mainly due to like things. It was mainly due to bullying, to a lot of the death that I seen, to the pain that happened in my family, and because of all of this, I'm just naturally more of a pessimistic person in general. And so when it came to seeing people, I was like, yeah, like you don't like I've seen what you've done. I've seen what you did. I know who you are. And I know what you've done to me and my family and everybody and people all around me. And so because of those experiences, I seen the corruption of the heart of men for the most part. You know, there are people who did good things, surely, right? My grandparents and all. But even in the midst of that, Christianity was for me a bunch of hypocrites and a bunch of fools, following by this this evangelical white identification. Even in Catholicism, regardless of where you're seeing, that was the story that I was brought up in and placed into. That narrative was not beautiful to me. It wasn't cute to me. It wasn't something I wanted. I despised people. I was definitely the exact opposite of what this Jesus figure I wanted. That I wanted. I knew that I wanted to find something that was going to satisfy me. And so I played the game just like everybody else do, which you can see a lot in business. It's like, hey, let it be transactional. If you do this for me, I'll do this for you. If I can make you feel this way, then we can agree to do this on this side. And we don't have to tell everybody, and we'll just keep it in between. Or I'll manipulate and deceive others to get the things that I need and that I want. And nobody was outside of that jurisdiction for me. Anybody can get played. Anybody can be taken advantage of. Anybody can come at me, and I'll have a very good background to do whatever was needed to be done overall. So that happened up until I was about 8, and then the Hurricane Katrina happened in New Orleans, and our place was demolished. Like we going back to the place, like it was nothing pretty. We lost the majority of everything, and we took everything that we could into the car before they shut the gates down, or I guess before they shut the roads off to enter and exit New Orleans. We were able to get out of there. And so that's where we end up traveling and doing all of these things. Now, for me, because of that experience, I wasn't yet set in the mindset of like absolute hatred. I was like, man, maybe I could find somebody. Maybe it was just the way that I looked and the way that I acted with these people, right? Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I can kind of get around this thing. I don't necessarily want to hate them, but like they're not, like, humanity is not giving me a reason to. I get outside of my bubble. Internet is around. I'm looking up things, looking at people, looking at celebrities, looking at tabloids, all of these different types of things. And I get to school, and I'm like, this is a new chance. Don't nobody know me. I don't know nobody in Texas. They don't know who I am. They don't even know my name. I am about to take hold of whatever I got and make the most of it so that I can get a good, fresh start. I remember being in Irvin, my first day of school, and I walked down the hallway very vividly. I walked down the hallway, and there's like 3 kids that's coming the opposite way, and look at me, point at me, and just start roasting me. Just literally right there. I'm like, hey, like, yeah, bump this, bump all that. Nah, I can't do this no more. You finna get this work. Come near me. Like, I am going to ensure that any and every part of your day here, as best as I can. I ain't gotta touch you. But I can manipulate your situations at school. I can make you look like a fool. I can create things and say things about you in the shadows. And I was
in the shadows.
I was really, really good at it, unfortunately. Right. But also, fortunately, I as I began to grow up, I learned how to do that better and better and better. So to me, that was my craft. If you ask me what I'm good at, I say manipulation. Being able to create a narrative and something that makes me look like the best person or the best candidate for whatever reason. And I didn't have a necessary desire to do that. I didn't want to be the best. I just wanted to be in my own lane, and as long as you didn't mess with me, we were good. But if you was in that space, nah, we gotta address that. And I gotta get ahead of you. That's my competitive side. So I ended up getting to West Dallas of all places. And
Right.
I would say this is about, I was in 4th grade, 5th grade when I got there. Met a woman named Annie Robinson. Man, mother of the faith. She, to this day, she got my heart. She could ask me to do anything. I damn near do it. You know, she took care of us when we ended up getting homeless at one point, becoming homeless at one point. That's before the other homeless stuff. And she came from a ministry called Mercy Street.
Mm-hmm.
That George W. Carver, and she asked me to mentor, and I'm like in the 5th grade, so I'm at this age to be able to do so. And I'm like, nah, I ain't trying to do all that. I seen all the other mentors, how they was getting other people, how they was getting all these other kids things, but I was like, I don't want no other human being in my life asking me deep questions. Like, I don't care what you're gonna get me, I don't need it. Like, we'll survive the way that we've been surviving for all these other years. And so I dodged her as much as I could. Then she got to my sister, who was in 4th grade. Then she found out where we lived when I was in 5th grade, yeah. And things just kept happening and happening. And as she found out where we lived, I couldn't say no to my mama when she asked us to go to an event. And I was like, dang, this woman caught me. She is phenomenal. She knows what she was doing. We get to this thing called the extravaganza, and I met this white man named Gary Smith. And I think this is incredibly needed to be said, because for me, if I hated anybody and I couldn't trust anybody, it was white people. That was the narrative that was fed and shown me, to the point where, like, cousin, to my uncle, to my grandfather, to my cousin, other friends and people around us who was affected, and we seen very dire things. So I've never been talked to by a male figure, especially a white male, who wanted to know me. Like, there was just something different that was given during this conversation. So around my mother, around Annie and my sister, he like looks me in my eye and said, like, "Hey, how you doing? My name is Garrett. What's your name?" Like, he goes through his typical spiel, but he asked questions to get to know me. And I just don't remember that being the case. I never received again from a white male. And I'm like, this is weird. I don't know. Like, this is and so he invited me around the corner and said that there's guys that go to your school who they go to your school and they come over for Bible study, and my house is like literally right down the road. And if you'd like to come, I'd be more than happy to have you. And I very, very, very weirdly, I go. Don't. That's not a typical thing, man. And so we get there, and I get there, and then I'm like, pretty, I'm doing my typical thing, going to look good for this guy, and trying to blend in if I need to. Right? So I ain't trying to look no kind of different way. And I come in, but they're like, it's loud. But it is loud. I mean, like, Pat's in the kitchen on the couch by the TV watching. Either they're watching TV, they're eating his wife's food, Mindy's food, or they're like wrestling. And they're roasting each other. And I was like, who lets this happen? Only two people that was not a person of color was him and his wife, and I was just madly thrown off by it, bro. I didn't know what to expect, for real. And so, and I'm just like, man, like, y'all all on this dude's stuff. Yeah, all on this table, you loud and rambunctious. Man, you bullied me, bro. Like, I don't really care for these cats per se.
Right.
But we get to opening up scripture or him just like sharing a little bit of his story, and for that time, he shared why he did what he did, why he let you guys come in, and with this like middle school boys Bible study, I was like, this is different. This is not the Jesus that I remember hearing about.
Yeah.
You know, like this cat was not. He felt like more like the genie in the bottle type cat. Like,
not the genie in the bottle type.
Had the Jesus figure in the house in New Orleans. Mama would have it, had the Bible next to it, say, put your hand on the Bible if you lying. I like, man, I'm still gonna lie. I don't care who this dude is. She's like, don't let Jesus catch you. I was like, man, if he already know my heart, what's the point of hiding? You know? And like you guys are fearful for no reason. He ain't do nothing yet. Right? And when Gil was talking about Yeshua, I was like, so you telling me you coming from where you coming from? In good old Indiana, wherever that was from. I ain't know nothing about no other state. I went to Brazil and came to the west side of Dallas. And I mean, you're in a gated neighborhood, but still like letting these kids in your house like this, that's weird. And I was like, I never met a believer that was like that. And so I kept that Bible study. I just asked the questions, man. For real. I asked the questions. I asked about other religions. I started looking online for myself, and I was like, what's so different about this? Like you sound like every other God or every other thing. You have your own rules and commandments, and they have their own rules and commandments. And I mean, generally you're pretty similar. Oh, okay. So that's a difference. Oh, okay. That's a little different. Wow. All right then. And more conversations I have with this now. I'm like, I am holding him after Bible study. He takes the kids home in a Mercy Street van, and I'm making sure that I'm the last person in that van to have these conversations with him. He like, man, got a wife and kid too. I'm like, I don't care, but I'm really trying to figure out why you act the way that you act, and what's so different about this Jesus cat. And so, eventually it got to a point up in 8th grade, right? And I had a lot of mentors on top of that with Jerry Wagner, with Scott Turpin, with Ramon Smith, with Daryl Donnell, with I'm trying to remember his name. But a few other folks who have come in, Lee Jackson, Carlton Obi, like all these people that have come in.
Right.
And I'm like, this is different.
Mm.
I got folks from the hood used to gang bang and all that, and then I have white dude from Indiana and old 50-year-old cat from uppity North Dallas, and I'm like, these people are following Jesus. It didn't matter who they were,
right?
You know. And I remember at Pinecove where we met at in my second summer there as a student. I accepted the Lord, and I was like, man, if he really is who he said that he is, and they got all this kind of stuff out here about him,
right?
This guy, this has to be something. I got like, it's either a yes or a no, and if I say no, I may have some time, but if I don't say yes, then I might not be able to at a young age get to find out what true hope and life is that this Jesus dude is talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm gonna put my faith and trust in this. That this is solidified. That this is good for me, and that this will actually be something worth my while. And so after that, man, I started going down a journey of loving people, of trying to figure out. I was socially awkward. I was like, bro, come in as a person who manipulated, deceived, and hated people. To
right.
Like, dang, like you actually have value. You're worth my time. You are.
Wow.
You know, you are something that is beautiful and wonderfully made. I've never seen I've never seen myself like that, let alone anybody else. So, man, when I started getting that, I was like, I'm a socially awkward cat. I'm at Garrett House trying to talk to these other people and not try to see like, oh, what's a bad thing about them that I can manipulate. And when I got like pressured, and I was like, I hate this shit. I left and I hid under a bench And I prayed. And I was like, Lord, I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what this looks like. So I go on the bench, pray for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, leave, go fight off the dogs in the hood, come back, try to do it again. You know, and I think it is so from there. At the age of 12, making that decision and walking in that faith more and more,
Right.
challenging scripture, challenging myself, challenging believers and everybody along those lines. I recognize that in the scriptures, the Lord has really created. He really created and established both law and commandments and a vow to His people that we are to provide and to secure provision all around. Like as you love others, attempt to hold well and steward well what's been given to you. And living in America, there's so much opportunity and things to be stewarded in, unlike other places in the world. And so if I can provide for the believers internationally, not let alone like in my own local community, then what's holding me back from that? You know?
Right.
It started with loving my mom and my sister. Then it started with loving Gerard and T and Reggie and all of them. Then it started with loving Marquez, Keith, Terrell. Then it came to making disciples with PD and Quincy and all these other cats. And it came to actually stepping out and trying to walk in leadership and discipleship through Mercy Street and the Bible studies. And it came to Pine Cove and me continuing doing that at an older age. It then came to helping understanding what it looks like to church plant and walk with people in the very beginnings of their faith, in the beginning of a local congregation. It came to going to Pine Cove and walking out and leading and smaller children, going back to Pine Cove and leading college students, going to college and figuring out how to do a better job in research and socioeconomic development overall and management within businesses. And then finally getting to a point to where, hey, I want to actually be a part of. I want to integrate all of that together and establish believers very specifically do not have to hesitate in provision and loving one another. That your brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers all have assets and things along those lines that we share all across the world overall. And so if I can begin to establish and create that with my disciples, with my disciples and peers, with my mentors and father and mother figures, then we're in it, baby. Like we're here, and we're gonna like
right.
love and enjoy that very muddy process. Because as you know, man, like Christianity is not until it doesn't look on a mainstream or on a very like I based level. It doesn't look that sexy. It's
not at all.
It's incredibly like, who do I trust? Where do I go? You're discovering a lot of the traditions of Christianity in the American West and both the American and Eastern Hemisphere bases.
Right.
You see a lot of the whitewashing of who Jesus was and the scriptures in and of itself.
Yes.
And then also trying to like love our European American Caucasian white, the term that you desire to use of this cultural ethnic background, to love them without seeing all of these things and saying like you're trash and all of these things is like it doesn't look sexy at all. But it's like first of all, the gospel is foolishness to those who don't seek to know the Lord in and of that case.
Right.
And it is incredibly foolish to say that I'm going to love my neighbor. It's incredibly foolish to say that I'm going to seek the other. I'm going to seek the other to the best of my ability alongside me and to share everything that I have. And that nothing is not mine, and nothing is not technically mine, but the Lord has given me. The Lord has given me control with these things to steward that well. So it's like carrying all of that into business, relationships, personal development, all of that, man. It's been interesting. So I would say all of that put together, that's where I'm at.
Man, that is so incredible. That's so much to unpack right there. I think you've done such a great, effective job of being able to explain that and just understanding to see that your whole transition of your journey from somebody that used your gifting of relationship building to
Yeah.
be like just like Joseph, to be a manipulator, to snake your way to snake your way in and out and continue to like to destroy, and from coming from a hardened place to see where your heart is now, and the idea of being able to continue to bring the kingdom into like the earthly reality that you've been given through
Right.
the foundations of wholesaling and entrepreneurship and mentoring. Like I think that if somebody was a great example of what it means to be a great mentor, it would be you, because you've been mentored, and then from being mentored, now you're doing the mentoring. Like, for example, like, you graduated Texas A&M Commerce, and then now, you're still back in West Dallas, still mentoring those cats, and as well as mentoring the cats in your community, right? And it's kind of funny, but you think you went to Williams Preparatory, and I went to NHP, the uplift, the uplift those those uplift education values, but like you've really lived up into what it means to be open-minded,
Yeah.
what it means to be a risk taker, and what it means to continue to be like a community builder, right? Like to be perceptive. And
I thought you was about to start going down the uplift way. Do you remember that at all? How they would have specific words to identify students.
I know risk taker and open-minded are two of them, but I don't know the other ones. But I know, but like for sure, like because dude,
Yeah.
guys, anybody that's watching this or is going to watch this, Mumbo is one of the most open-minded people, because man has literally have gone across the country with friends and families and has literally interacted with so many different people of different cultures, staying in their places. Do you know how open-minded you have to be able to trust somebody enough to stay in their home? Like you don't like, and we've done this on so many occasions.
Yeah.
Like,
Surprised they still let me come.
Shoot, I'm surprised they still let anybody come, to be honest,
that's a great point, especially where we at now.
But that's so powerful to be able to say that and see how that you are continuing to lead out to that example. And let's dive in a bit more, man. Like, of course, you've said so much, and you're all about community building. Why do you feel like it's important for our generation, specifically, Gen Z, to be able to have an emphasis on what it means to have a community, but from an offline perspective? Because we're all online, but you seem to be able to really hold dear to relationships offline. And why do you think it's important for us to be able to continue to pursue that?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. I think I can do a little bit of both, honestly, for both offline and online. Because I'm still like, I think when we become cool, we're pretty like socially awkward, but I'm still a pretty awkward cat. Like, I'm still pretty weird and for the offline, actually, let me go from online to offline. Online, the last 6 years, at least since college, has been so before college, right? When I became a believer, it was primarily in home, walking with God, and then everybody else doing prayer time, doing worship time, breaking bread, scripture reading, early morning devotions. Like that was a lot of my time. Early morning soccer games and stuff like that. Like that was the epitome of getting in it. Specifically for faith wise. And it was important because for many years I didn't go to an established church, right? I didn't go to a very institutionalized church. And it was good for me because I got a lot of authentic relationships. I got to call, like, people got to call me out on my stuff. I got to call them out on theirs. I get to address, like, yo, like, that's just not how we rock. That's just not how we roll. Or look, G, like, worship is okay, man. Like, in fact, I know that you say, like, gift giving, and people may say gift giving and words of affirmation is a love language. But yo, hey, if you can joke with me, or if I can joke with you, that's a love language. Like being able to have those types of conversations and see those differences between other people.
Right.
From that basis of offline, that was incredibly good because because of that authentic, true relationship of working through and going through the mud without the bureaucracy of everything else of
Right.
paperwork and this is how you do this and this is how you have to do this. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't really care for a lot of that stuff. I go to College Station. I'm sorry, A&M Commerce, and G moved. Jerry became busy with the church that he recently he had established, and I didn't like a lot of the friends that I was with was just not like responsive. I was one of the main. I was one. For me, I was the only believer, black, male, young, hanging out with these 30, 40-year-olds, asking these questions, trying to dig deep. I was the only one that I knew of. I did not know anybody else that was like digging down into their faith overall. And so I was like, all right, cool. Then what do I do? So I tried going offline to some of the churches around me. Couldn't really do it. I didn't know where it was at. And outside of that, I was trying to make friends. Wasn't really working. I was just, man, like folks ain't isn't real. People end up coming to my bedroom. My roommate was making friends, but he wasn't really friends with them. And I was like, bro, like these ain't the closest thing that these people are like acquaintances. You can't just call them friends off the bat. And he was like, no, like this, that, and the other. I'm like, cool, do what you do. Can y'all get out of my room? Like I don't want to do this. Like this ain't real. This ain't whatever. And I'm trying to find, and I just couldn't get nothing. I was just not able to find real solid friendship. I made acquaintances along the way. Don't get me wrong, but was there those people going to be legitimate friends who stuck with me to the end? Nah, not truly. There's only a few people from college that I still keep in touch with, and again, those are primarily either acquaintances or close friends or friends, and there's not very many of them. And I'm very specific about how I identify those who go from acquaintance to a tribe to like being a part of my tribe overall. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do a lot of texting. Texting. Look. Pray, whoever is looking at this or eventually look at this, if you are a great texter, praise God for you. Because you're different for real. Because I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I don't do it well. But I text because it's one of the main ways I can get in touch with people. So I text friends from back home. I'm texting people from Pine Cove. I'm texting people from Northern Ireland. I'm texting some folks that I met up in Mexico. I'm texting some people I met up in Indiana. I'm texting and I'm also calling, and I'm texting, calling, and doing all these things. I'm like, okay, I need this because I don't like growing by myself. I know how important community is needed. If I don't have community, how am I able to grow or know if I'm growing or not? I just needed that. I just needed that background. I needed that that critique. As you had talked about, Tanaka, like that was incredibly important. If it wasn't addressed, if community is not brought into the fold, then it didn't create and establish a way for me to know who was rocking with me here and who wasn't. Right. And even that differed when we talk about business. That differs when we're talking about I'm really trying to address these things in my life. Can you help me? Maybe not, but maybe in some other area. Right. So then great. Let's keep this conversation on hold. And let's start talking about this because I know that that's an expertise for you. Oh, I know that this is a skill set for you. Oh, I know that this is something that you love. You love anime. You love makeup. You love cosmetology. You love making sure that you have style. You love making sure that people feel valued and loved. You have a specific way of doing that. So you like to cook. You like to host people in your place. You like to go out with people and have a good beer or drink with them. Cool. Like I'm trying to learn that.
Right.
I want to know these skill sets and these things that make you human. Because I've looked at people as lesser than human for at that point at the majority of my life. I need a community to know that like people were people.
Right.
that they could grow and that they can develop, including my, like I needed to hear that and know that for myself. And so both off, like the majority of my time, even to this day, since 2015, a lot of my community has been based in through telecommunications, which is really funny because both my current work and my previous job was fundraising or sales through telecommunications, through calling and texting and all that emailing and everything along those lines. Very rarely did I meet people face to face, even to this day. But that's how, Tanaka, a lot of our conversations have been through the phone, and a lot of our celebrations and tears, and a lot of our addressing trauma and having and then sharing joy has been through the phone,
Right.
in person. And I got that feeling, that energy that was given, and I loved it. And I was like, man, we got to keep in touch. We need to keep in touch. And we did through telecommunications for Fabian, telecommunications for EJ, a lot telecommunications, as bad as he can be on it. For for a lot of my current like solid tribe, telecommunications, FaceTime, whatever it is, that was the point. That was the main ways that we kept in touch. And so if a person is like, I can't do it, I don't want to do it, community is important, but I don't know how to get to it, like you just got to put yourself out there. You gotta at least begin to have I have a standard. And I know where I stand with people, and people know where they stand with me. I'm very upfront and open and willing to tell you very face forth, like, no, it's not gonna work. No, you're not a friend yet. We're an acquaintance, and I still want to build this relationship with you. I want to get to know you and not act like I know you. I don't want that. I want us to be a genuine, authentic relationship because that's how we both grow. And I see nothing but for you to thrive as a person overall, right? Whether you believe in Yahweh or not, like I know what true life looks like, and I've had a chance to live that out, at least for the years that I've been living. So, yeah, man, I would say that about like that's why community is important. I don't think you can truly thrive and develop to the top of the capacity that you've been given as a person without it.
Right. Man, that's so valuable in the way that you continue to tell people, like, despite, the distance that has been predicated just because of their journey and whatnot, how you understand that they're so vital to utilize the form of telecommunications in order to continue to build community that is, honest, authentic, and especially in a time when there's so much noise and we're not really able to truly really focus and understand that, hey, so many people are so opportunistic and want to continue to take advantage of other people and forget relationship building. It's all about me. It's all about me. But then when we look at the scripture and you look at how Yeshua lived his life, he had 12, but even in the 12, he had 3, and he walked with them intentionally, walked with them in a way that is predicated on both the authenticity level, in the way that we're going to continue to call each other out for both our gifts and our gifting, but also for our trash.
True. I am trash, no doubt.
I mean, shoot, we all are. but then we're beautiful, at the same time, man. At the same time, bro, that insight that you said was so valuable, man.
Yeah.
And now, bro, of course, we always talking about business and whatnot and, all that good stuff, man. And, dude, so of course, 2020 has been a year that has been coined the greatest wealth transfer in history and and all that stuff. Talk about, like, how and why did you decide to get into the alley of entrepreneurship? And what was one of the top pivotal lessons that you've learned, especially operating during the pandemic?
Good point. Question. I jumped into it because I became interested in creating a lane for myself to know how I worked overall and I operated and functioned overall. Prior to wholesaling houses, it was fundraising for A&M Commerce. A&M Commerce gave me foundations to know how, like, this is how you begin to establish a process. This is how you begin to integrate this work. This is how you begin to yada, yada, yada. And it got to a point where I was like, this is a lot of what entrepreneurs, like, from what I understood, this is what a lot of entrepreneurs use in the very beginning of their business. Calling people, integration, establishing processes, right? For CEOs, that's the big thing. For my current business mentor, that was what he does. He went through the process of, hey, this is how you establish the systems, establish the process, and then hire alongside that. And then here's some standards that you should have for those employees and how to keep them going, and even to establish a career for them in this field.
Right.
I was like, wow, okay. So that makes sense. So what I was learning during my skill sets that was being understood and learned, both in management, in telecommunications, in sales, in integration, in workflow integration and processing, that was good for me. However, the university didn't give me enough to actually play with a lot of that. And I was like, too exciting that I'm not given the tools to truly make this my own. And I was tired of waiting. I was tired of being told, you're going to get, like, we're almost there, or we're going to get there, or eventually we'll get there. And I'm like, man, I'm tired of telling my students this one thing and another thing happens. I want to stick to my word. I want my word to be my word. I don't want nobody else to, like, having to question that. Especially as you hear from where I'm at, I don't want anyone to hesitate to think that I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I had that happening too much in that workspace and in that environment. So I was like, man, what is something I can begin to do that is easier to jump in, not super risk heavy, and that I can generally start within the first 2 or 3. I can begin to start seeing some success and some results in the first 2 to 3 months. And exactly wholesaling. And wholesaling was the pivotal point for me to know, okay, that's the first thing I found, wholesaling. It was a pivotal point for me to know, okay, this is something good. So I only need like $175 to start going out and looking for some houses, and then maybe like another $100 to $200 to start to skip trace those people and call those people. Oh, got you. And then if I can work it well, I can get my end buyer to do an earnest deposit and get this home under contract with a title company. Right. And I was like, man, okay. So did all of that learning for like 4 months. I was getting really close to analysis paralysis, and I was like, okay, so I just got to jump in. So starting in February, which is really funny because that's when, starting in January when I got the business like established, February came with the pandemic, and I was like, yeah, I can't stop. Like I'm already here. Like
you can't stop.
Yeah, I already paid $300 for this. I'm not going to just stop and let that money go to waste. Like, fuck that. And I was already saving a bunch of money for an investment specifically. So I took that money that I made during college, and I saved during college, and I invested during college, and I'll start taking that money out and putting it toward the business. June. And it only took maybe like $500 for me to actually get my first deal. And for that to go smoothly, that ended up being a couple $1,000s on top of that. And it was a great beginning. I now had money to start marketing, to market more. I had to be thoughtful about, okay, so I don't like the calling. How can I hire somebody on a very cheaply basis and still make those calls and still do those text messages for the marketing? How can I keep the workflow going? And it's only until now that I'm actually getting those processes to be more consistent. And now that I'm hiring people for those positions. But those were the main things that started. I noticed that the university gave me a foundation, but it wasn't enough, and I wanted to do more. And wholesaling was the area where I could actually take control. And there was just a lot of information on the internet. I've never seen any entrepreneurship outside of maybe trading, specifically swing trading, that had a lot of information about a direction for making money on the side. Making extra money on the side that you can scale. right? There's a lot of things that you can make extra money on, but you have to spend all your time doing it. You can't have other people doing it for you. Yada yada yada, right? Drop shipping can only go so far. Eventually, you start getting into like you start getting into Amazon products or eBay products. You're starting to learn how to do those things. Like eventually, it had to get to a scalable project. And wholesaling is scalable. It's incredibly
Right.
scalable. And knowing that, I was like, so this is something I can start and not only make an extra couple thousand on a year, but actually establish a business, get the processes set, scale it a little bit, and begin to start making up to like $46,000, up to $46,000 a month on a regular basis. And as I continue that, I can now begin to put that money toward other projects and other things toward community development. My dream, going back to my dream. And so community development is a part of my end goal, and housing is one of those factors that heavily affect community development. So that's what I did. I was like, this is a no-brainer. It's too easy. Real estate is one of the most consistent investments. If not the most consistent investment. And a lot of people are doing it and able to do it. You can have relatively little money to begin and to start that. And there's tons of information to get started to even to a scalable project. So
Right.
that's a heavy reason for why all of those reasons lead up to why I began this entrepreneurship step.
Right. That's good. That's so good. And then, so now, you know, through this process of almost a year into the game, putting skin in the game, why do you think it's so valuable for us to really bet on ourselves?
Bet the bag on myself. Shout out to
Yeah.
KD. Yeah, man. I think it begins for you. We know like Derek Grace, phenomenal cat that talks some real game. He is
Real game, y'all. Derek
not
Grace.
afraid to talk about what you need to get. Like, you need to get up off your ass, start moving in that direction. They care about you, but they don't care about you. Yeah, they make you take like the things that you never think about. It's like you can't imagine you not being able to go back to work, or you not being able to get your food stamps, or yada yada, because the job or this says like you need the vaccine first. Whether that's true or not, the fact that is a possibility,
Right.
but our history is not like it's not too far gone from whether like those type of things or incentives was actually happening.
Right.
In my head, I'm like, yo, this man is got a great point. If there's something I don't want to do, I am controlled under the factor of an employer, an employee. And I am hoping that my employer is going to give me something to grow. And if they don't, then I'm at their will, or I leave, putting my family and my tribe in a position where I can't provide. Right. And I'm like, I would prefer not to do that if I have some control over that.
Right.
Because betting the bag on myself was needed to know that, hey, like I am able to take these risks and place in an investment, which is what a lot of our American economic system is based off of. If I can do this in a very proper, consistent way that I've seen people that I look up to do,
Right.
then I can really establish something that's worth my while. Not only worth my while, but then I can share that stuff with other people.
Right.
Information being held, and that's the beauty about EYL University. That's the beauty about Carlos Miller and 85 South. That's the beauty about Nick Cannon. That's the beauty about all these folks that we see put in there. Wall Street Trapper. Shout out Wall Street Trapper.
What a Wall Street Trapper, man.
They're like they are giving game that was not given initially, open to the public, and that's
right.
We're seeing these people, these very specific people that I'm talking about in similar circles. They're like,
right.
I know this information, and it's accessible to the public, and almost anybody could do it because if I give them a loaded gun, you just have to aim and take fire. Do what thou will with that.
Right.
Do like steward that well, and that's a part of the belief set that we hold, that you and I hold. And take what is given and steward that well. And so
Right.
that may mean that you may have to reconsider your financial ways. That may mean that you may have to do some self-sacrificing. That may mean 5 years of a lot of struggling to get things on foot.
Yeah.
Struggling getting things on foot, doubting yourself, not knowing if this is gonna work, maybe being a little bit below means, and figuring out like only eating noodles and salad and certain meats every few days throughout the week. Can't eat lavishly. Stop going out so much. Stop whatever it is. Start taking sacrificial means to ensure that you're getting to the point to where you want to be in your best
Mm.
place. For some people, that's just being by themselves. For others, that could just be like, oh, all I need is like $3,000 a month, and I'm good. Great. Then let me show you a way. Let me show you a way to use your good credit well. Let me show you how to flip. Let me show you. Let me give you some game into how to flip a house easily. Let me show you some game on how to rent your car out or get a car with that good credit. Put that car
Right.
zero, and then rent that mug out and make an extra like 3,000 or 1,000 to 3,000 a month. You know, or have that and rent your car out for like 4 days, and then make your bill that once was $400 to $200. Like being able to
Right.
things out, saving money and investing that money properly for the legacy ahead of you or the people around you in your environment, man, people grow in that way. And it
Right.
really because you really get to see like the again, going back to community and thriving, that really begins to set the tone, set the standard. If you have a standard for yourself and you bet the bag on yourself, you get to really know how far that capacity is for you. But if you stay in
Right.
a comfortable state and don't honestly risk anything, not just business or I'm being an entrepreneur, but just like if you find something new and you just think it's a scam all the time, yo, it might be.
It might be.
It might be, but it could also be an opportunity that you can miss out on. Do your due diligence, address it, and if you want to go out on a limb, do it. At some point, take the risk. So I think it's important. You get to learn a lot about yourself, and you really get to develop your own personal standard, and really set hold that this is who I am, and nobody can change that. Only I have control over how I respond to things. So, yeah.
Wow. That's good stuff, man. That is some great stuff. So, and like that, if anybody, if you, whoever watches this conversation or anything, if you cannot just take one thing away from this, I think the top two things is really lean into community and really bet on yourself, because those are vital keys to becoming just a better person, honestly.
For
like
sure.
because like, and you think about it, if you're not willing to take a risk on yourself, how do you expect anybody else to believe in you, you know?
Mm-hmm. If you don't believe in you,
Yeah.
I can't. If you got no confidence in yourself, then like, what am I really digging into? You know, and so
Exactly.
that's the conversation. That's the conversation. Often is like, yo, I want you to know that, like, sis, bro, mom, dad, this is like you are fire. You are like you add so much life to just by being who you are. I don't care if there is a missing chromosome. I don't care if you have MS. I don't care if you have sickle cell. I do care, but I don't care in the way of saying like this. But if you devalue yourself because of that, maybe you're not seeing how valuable you add life to. How valuable you add life to the kid. Like a kid, you see hope in that kid because they may be able to grow. But what if just in the case of you being a father and taking care of somebody else allows for you to take care of somebody else down the road? If this child end up not being brain dead for the rest of their life, that is incredibly unfortunate. But they still add value to life overall.
Right.
That vulnerability, and yet that authority to make sense of what life is, the significance of what life is, whether they can, or whether their capacity is only to know that my mama just raised at me, and that's it. That's as far as they can go. And they can eat and they can function generally, but they can't live on by themselves. They can't make a whole lot out of the world, but they can't help you become more and more human and understand all these different things that you by yourself would have never grasped or got, and that you now know that wow, I do have the capacity to take care of somebody else. I do have the capacity to make sense of what real life
Right.
is when it's not when the situation is not my own. I now have a different perspective just by talking to a person that I once hated.
Right.
I mean, all of that. Find that confidence and see yourself as valuable, because life isn't too precious for you not to recognize how beautiful you are.
That's good, man. That is so good. So, man, bro, you this is a lot of good gems, bro. This is a lot of good gems. You dropping some gems.
We're just talking, bro.
You know, people will say, "Oh, the gems is on Clubhouse."
Man,
Oh,
oh my
$1 billion valuation.
oh,
But
man.
anyway,
Yo. Let me get the flow. Yo. Let me get it. Funny, bro.
but man, so these are the last couple questions. As you know, one Mumbo, of course, I appreciate your time, bro, for always just taking the time out just to chop it up. Guys, if we wanted to, we could go on for 3 hours, but we got stuff we got to do.
We already do that offline, man.
We do that all the time. I talk to this guy on a daily or a weekly, daily way. And man, I wish you guys were in the conversations that we always have on the phone. But life giving, man. But dude, so these are the last couple questions that I ask my guests. So these are like the big legacy questions. So my very first question is, what is something that you would like to see change in the United States?
I think if anything, to begin to legitimately seek truth outside, like pessimism. And I think I say that because there's a lot of, if you vote this way, or if you see life as this way, or you do this, then you are less, like, essentially you're lesser than human. And I hear a lot of the same language that I would use when I don't care about a person overall. And I know that how dangerous that is, both for my heart and for the other people, because it leads to so much more. Whether it leads to a riot, or hearts that desire destruction or violence, or it leads to being controlling the narrative to your own position, even when you know that is wrong, just so that you can have this narrative to somewhat get the truth for whatever you want to talk about. It is creating a way where I don't know what's real. I just don't know what's honest and true. That's why authenticity is so important for me, and I'm very strict in my standard for, like, yo, if you're a friend, then this is what it means for us to be walking in this way, whether you're a believer or not. Like, I think this is important, because everybody else around you begin to become a better person, become somebody who they were either meant to be, or live up to the capacity for where they're at. And so if we begin, I don't know, if we begin to see where I don't have to hesitate when a person say, hey, I've done this, and I can actually have a legitimate conversation with this person, or like, why do you believe what you believe, and where can we go from here? Yes, I may disagree, and I disagree on this, but hey, where can we meet for where we agree at, and begin to walk down that line? Can you even see where I'm coming from? Because if not, or can you negotiate or compromise a little bit from where you're at? Not compromising your individuality as a human or as a person, but maybe some of the bias that is in the experience that you have had. Because experience don't make up. In sociology, you learn, like, experience is just one of the things that make up reality, right? There's other things that encompass all of those things. With one experience, the other is research and statistics and historical basis. But even in that, how do I look at a poll and know that it's not skewed? Right? Going to counters that help me open my eyes. Like, oh wow, So you may get all of these black people for this specific area, but you were targeting their like a very specific audience for this poll. Now this poll is skewed amongst more than just this bias. How do I look at the poll, or how do I look at where this poll was done and the stuff behind it? Because there's a way for you to find it, but if you don't know it, then it's like I just believe this poll from this news source. Like even in that. So having a genuine thought and consideration. Hey, like I legitimately want to seek truth as best as I, without having to see the other person as lesser than overall. If I can see that, that could be maybe we can get a little bit further.
Good, that's good, bro. That is so good. Now the next question is, man, what are 3 things that you would tell to your 18-year-old self?
Oh man, so many things, bro. So many things. That knucklehead was saying. I just looked at the world differently. I think so. One thing about me, or just like I think, at least for a lot of the cats, both in the hip hop community or African American communities, that like lifespan is not seen to go very far along. Right. Thinking that I didn't even think I could make it to 18. So at the age of 18, right. I was like, wow, when is this life going to end? Like, when am I going to die? Still believe that life was incredibly valuable, and I had some control in regards to how I lived it, but still, like, I'm living in the hood. We get broken into. I have to protect myself. I don't know when this is going to happen. Talking about Ken, like go to Kendrick Fear song. He goes through all the ways. I could die walking down the street, getting shot because of being in the wrong place. Right. Like all of these different things. I just wasn't expecting to live life. I wasn't expecting to live past 18, let alone 20. How am I? 23? Wasn't expecting to live past 23. So I'm like, man, hey man, you have a lot of life. You have a lot of life left, and don't see yourself in such a negative area to think I don't have a legacy to leave. Right. That was my excuse. My excuse was, hey, I'm gonna do my best to leave a legacy, but I can't go too far because I'm not gonna live that long. That would be my second thing. Like, hey, you have a lot of life and you have a legacy to leave. And so dig down deep into that. That is necessary. If you have something that's worthwhile for your disciples and the people that you walk with, both in college and up in West Dallas, or from Houston, or from Iowa, or from any of these places, like, do it and do it hard. Go hard, and love the process. Love the process overall. And I think the third thing would be, just try and like enjoy, like try to have fun, celebrate, like begin to celebrate more. I'm pessimistic as like crazy, and being able to see life in just like in a good light versus always always critiquing the negative things about life. At 18, right. that was hard for me in college. I was like, first meeting these people, I was like, you hella bougie, you just straight hoeing at this point. You're very lonely, and you're alcoholic, and you just don't know what you want to do. Like, I was like, I don't need people like you around me, rather than saying, okay, like you have some good things about you that we can begin to grow and develop. So let's find some fun ways to make the best out of that. That held me back a lot. Like that mindset of being pessimistic held me back a lot. So yeah, celebrate life. Leave it, like go hard into leaving a legacy. And what was the other one? Like you have a lot more life to live. Yeah.
That's good, bro. That is so good. And that's a great transition to the last question I asked my guests is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, I mean, it's not like I haven't heard about these before. Yeah, so leaving the type of legacy that I want to leave. One, I am not like front and center. I'm very good at playing the background.
Right.
I think it works best. It works incredibly. It works best for me. So when when I think about the legacy that I want to leave specifically for the guys that I'm with, is that hey, when it comes to stewarding and holding fast well what you obtain and what you have, whether you're in poverty or in riches, um, that stewardship should lead to something else outside of you.
Right.
Just straight. Because again, as we talk about this community, we talk about people being valuable, and we talk about life being comprehensively good to be able to live, regardless of the corruption of this world. Um, it is worth my guy it is worth my guys and my girls' time to of stewarding and receiving this thing that they have, to not just hoard that, right? As we talk about the guys that we both have learned, both business and personal aspects of how to live life with the things that we've received, they've freely given information back to back to back that you would not have learned no more than like 5 years ago, or 5 to 7 years ago.
Right.
And I want that to be known. Like, yo, I want you to hold fast to sharing this stuff, sharing this information, and being ready to get to that point. Because if I did not show that to you, if I was not that person, then I failed. I legitimately failed. I don't care what anything that I receive. If I'm not sharing that stuff with other people, because that's what community development is we are developing the community as a whole holistically for each and every person's benefit. People have been doing it all these years, so why not those in my local community? I'm tired of that. We need to do this together. My disciples and my peers and my friends and my mentors, we are all going to aim to that. If they're not doing it, then I'm definitely gonna say something, no doubt.
Man, that's so
Yeah.
good, bro. That's so good. Man, usually always let the guest the way that I close out the show is always different. And you hear it, bro. It's a speak life segment. So anybody that doesn't know, in the word it says life and death is spoken from the tongue. So this is me, Sean, with your flowers, bro. Man, dude, I love you so much, bro. That's pretty much it.
Yo,
You're
yes,
good.
man. Love you, bro.
Like, bro,
Yeah.
you man. I, yeah, bro. Thanks, man. That's all I gotta say.
We out here, man. Yeah, we out here. Yeah, out
Yeah,
here.
we out here, bro. And that's me speaking life. You already know, man. From the it is what it is all day, every day. I let you know how much I appreciate the knowledge, the wisdom, the accountability, the love, the truth, the prayer. God, Bjork, you are rock solid, and you are not a bum. We're going to continue to say it out. You are not a bum.
I do say that a lot. I do say that a lot.
You're not,
Facts. I
but you are
appreciate
not a
that.
bum. But man, you are.
Yeah.
But rather, you are a man of action. You're a man of integrity. You're a man of love, and you have a servant heart, Brian. And dude, thank you so much for being a light, man. And you're an amazing individual. So that's pretty much it, y'all. That's it for this episode of
Yeah, campus
Campus
cuts.
Cuts.
Yeah.
Mumbo, before we leave, where can the people find you at? Where can the people find out what you're doing?
Yeah, I primarily my main segment. Unfortunately, I don't have any specific things where people can find either the services that I offer yet. That's going to be finished up in February. But if anybody's interested in home selling or blueprints for do it like DIY credit repair or credit funding and how to make money off of that later on, you'll be able to find some of that information on my Instagram, which is at Mumbo Williams _ and eventually within the next 26, 27, 28, it will be up within the next 5 days, at least in my bio. And you'll be able to look at some of the websites and the designs. And honestly, if you want to talk and want to know how to kind of go for it, I am more than willing to get some free game, get at least like spark some ideas. spark some ideas. Because I got a big community of people who are already doing that. So if you're looking for people to follow on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever social site that you use, I got a lot of fellow mentees along with my mentor who I can just put game on to and say, yo, you looking to be inspired? Here are all these people to follow. And I know these people they're going in. So yeah.
Absolutely, man. That's amazing. Well, anyway, y'all, hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you had a lot of great gems and a lot of learned a lot. And we are out.
Yeah, peace.